join me in lighting candles, please, for Shabbat? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshana b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'adiner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has made us holy with the mitzvot, the commandments, to kindle the Shabbat flames. We speak of opening our eyes, a song from Jeff Klepper.
Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. We will know that you are one.
On page 12, on the English side, the first two lines, For Adonai is our God, and we are God's flock, sheep in God's caring hands. And I see this as a definition of what it means to have a connection with God, a closeness so close, so intense that you can nearly sense it. You can feel it. It's a personal, intimate, private touch, but it's shared with every single one of us. And now a reminder. Do you know what Adonai means? My God. The Hebrew name for God is my God. Every time you say Baruch Atah, you say my God. The Hebrew of our ancient days is reminding us that every one of us has a close and personal relationship with the Lord of everything. On page number 13, the English. Sing to Adonai a new song. Sing to Adonai all the earth. Sing to Adonai, praise God's name. Day after day, tell of God's deliverance. Tell the nations of God's glory. Speak of God's wonders among all peoples. For Adonai is great, surely to be praised, more revered than other gods. For the gods of the nations are men-made idols, but Adonai fashioned the very heavens. Grandeur and glory are God's honor guard, strength and joy where God is found. Offer to Adonai, peoples of the world, offer to Adonai honor and strength. Offer to Adonai the honor due God's name. Bring a gift of thanksgiving and enter God's presence. On page number 14, the last stanza on the Hebrew side, Yismechu Hashamayim, also found in the red transliteration. Yismechu Hashamayim Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yeramayam, 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 umalo. Yeramayam, 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 umalo. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yeramayam, 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 umalo. Yeramayam, 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 umalo. Yeramayam, 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 umalo. Yeramayam, 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 umalo. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz, which means the heavens and the earth themselves are singing along. And because this is the preliminary service of Shabbat, the heavens, the earth are singing along with you and me. On page number 17, just the first English stanza. Sing to Adonai a new song, for Adonai has wrought wonders. God's right hand and holy arm have brought deliverance. And that reminds us, the right hand, right arm reminds us of the association with the Exodus after the Israelites had been suffering under Pharaoh's oppression from the land of Egypt. God's right hand and arm are mentioned symbolically in the book of Exodus. So here in the book of Psalms, we're talking about leaving a place where there's been suffering and moving forward into a place where there's promise and hope. Yismechu hashamayim is the key to that element. We're thinking about being on a journey. And now a song from Craig Taubman entitled Journey.
It's only a journey across a very narrow bridge. It's a journey. You don't know where you're going. Can't hide from it. Don't dare fear from it. It's a journey across a very narrow bridge. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar meho. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar meho. From every direction there will be roads to choose. And if you're lucky, you'll like the one you use. It's a journey across a very narrow bridge. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar me'od. And there will be moments when wrong seem to be right. You must cross the darkness before you reach the light. It's a journey across a very narrow bridge. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar me'od.
On page 23, turn to Lecha Dodi, which also has the theme of traveling within it. Lecha means, come on, let's go out to sing. And 500 years ago, which is when Lecha Dodi is being composed in northern Israel in the city of Tzfat, people would go out into the fields. Literally, they'd leave the shul, go out to the fields, and they'd sing and welcome Shabbat and come back into the shul or their homes. And now you understand Lecha, which means come on, let's go out. And the conclusion is Boi, which means come on back in. So tonight, thinking about going out and then coming back in, and as we come back in with Boi, we're welcoming Shabbat joining us. We'll sing the first 3 stanzas on page 23, and the last 3 stanzas on page 25. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, hishmiyanu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad, l'shem ol tiferet v'lit hila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machashava techila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nikabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha, kumitzai mitoch hahafecha. Ravlach shevet be'emek habacha, v'hu yachamol alayechem la. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nikabela. Top of 25, v'hayu lim shisa. V'hayu lim shisa shosayich, v'rachaku kol meval ayich. Yasis alayich Elohayich, kimsos chatan al kala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela, yamin usmol tifrotzi, v'et Adonai taritzi, al yad ish ben partzi, v'nismecha v'nagila, lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Please rise. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzahala, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Remaining standing for a moment. The Psalm for Shabbat follows immediately on the Bowie. And now you understand the arrangement within the siddur. Bowie receives Shabbos, literally from the fields, from the outside, into our homes or the shul. And now we're speaking to and of and concerning Shabbat through the words of a psalm. And tonight, the first two stanzas. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. Finger the lute, pluck the harp, let the sound of the lyre rise up. We're supposed to sing and use music to offer a sense of gratitude to God, both day and night. And it doesn't say here on Shabbat. It says daybreak and each night. So one step leading into Shabbos is the awareness of every single day of the week. Every day of the week, we are to just for a few moments pause, reflect with song and gratitude about what it means to be close to God. And the pinnacle of that experience is Shabbos itself. Remaining standing, the Borchu on page 39b. Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach. Baruch Adonai hamavorach leolam v'ed. You may be seated. The first blessing on 39b. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space. You completed your work of creation on the seventh day, calling this day, from one evening to the next, the holy Shabbat, and gave this day of rest in all its holiness to your people Israel, creator of day and night, rolling light before darkness and darkness from light, making day pass and bringing on the evening, distinguishing day from night. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Living and ever-present God, may your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. El chai v'kayam, tamidim l'chalelam bo'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Blessed are you, God, who makes evening happen. And now, on page 40, the English. With timeless love, you have loved your people, the house of Israel. You have taught us Torah and mitzvot, statutes and laws. Therefore, Adonai our God, as we lie down and as we rise up, we shall speak of your laws, rejoicing in the words of your Torah and in your mitzvot forever and ever. For they are our life and the fullness of our days, and on them we shall meditate day and night. Do not ever withdraw your love from us. Baruch atah Adonai, who loves the people Israel. V'avotecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Blessed is God who loves Israel. The opening two brachot of the evening service, every day of the year. Creation of time and love of people. And both of those major elements of Jewish perspective are emphasized or anchored by the term Baruch, blessed. We speak of God's name as a source of blessing. A new song tonight, this is from Saul K., and it's Blessed Be the Name, because we're thinking about the name as we approach the Shema.
Yishem Adonai, Yishem Adonai, Yishem Adonai Nevorach. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, oh, blessed be the name of the Lord. Yikevod Adonai le'olam, Yishmach Adonai Masav. May the glory of Hashem endure forever. Let Hashem rejoice in His words. Yishem Adonai, Yishem Adonai, Yishem Adonai Nevorach. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, oh, blessed be the name of the Lord. Mizrach Shemesh Abnevo Nechula Hashem Adonai. From the rising of the sun to its setting, oh, Hashem's name is to be praised. Yishem Adonai, Yishem Adonai, Yishem Adonai Nevorach. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, oh, blessed be the name of the Lord. Ramaka Goyim Adonai Ad Hashamayim Kivodo. High above the nation, yes, Hashem. Oh, above the heavens does He shine. Yishem Adonai, Yishem Adonai, Yishem Adonai Nevorach. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, oh, blessed be the name of the Lord. Come on.
And now we turn to the Shema, to remind ourselves of what it means for each and every one of us to bless the name of God. The Shema on page 41. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Moment of silence on page number 42, please. Adonai Elohechem emet. On page number 44, the Michamocha. Umalchuto beratzon kiblu alehem Moshe uMiriam uvnei Yisrael lecha anu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam Mi chamocha poelim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh norati lot osei fele Malchutecha ra'u v'necha Bokea yam lifnei Moshe Zeli anu v'yamro Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov Ugalo miad chazak mimenu Baruch ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. In a moment on page 45, you've heard me often speak of the Hashkivenu, how the sense of the Hashkivenu, especially the first word, is that of a parent placing a child into a bed and adjusting the blanket, the sheet, the comforter around the child, tucking the child in. And that's the sense that we have when we're calling out to God. And these are very strange times. And I know I need that sense, that touch. Tonight, I'm exercising a little bit of a prerogative, and I'm introducing the conclusion of the Hashkivenu with a different piece, a piece that you're familiar with from an entirely different prayer. It's Biado of Kidruchi, which is the last line of the Adon Olam. Biado of Kidruchi means literally, I'm placing myself in God's hand. And what could be more necessary and more tender and more hopeful than seeing yourself, ourselves, all of us in God's own hands.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechayim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechayim
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechayim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechayim Ushmor Zetenu Uvoenu Lechayim Ushalom Me'ata ve'ad olam Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, V'hamidenu malkeinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, V'hamidenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, Hashkivenu Adonai,
Sukkot Shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Haporei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Mo Yisrael, V'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru, top of page 46. Please join me for the V'shamru. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti leolam, oti leolam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz. V'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbain, be'almad divra chutei mechutei, be'chayechon u'b'yom echon u'b'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, bagala U'bizman kariv v'imero amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach la'olam li'olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitparvdom v'yinaseh v'yidhadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu le'la mekor b'chata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'olma v'imero amen. As we rise for the Friday evening Amidah, the traditional text, pages 47 through 52, or perhaps a thought. Here you are, and you're standing in the candlelight of God, the candles of Shabbos. It's evening time, and we've just spoken of prayers for people to be in God's own hand. What will you add in the silence of your own private meditation at this moment? A few moments of silence. The full Kaddish is on page number 54. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, Amen. Be'alma dibra chirtei lechatir, ve'aven lichat v'chazimru, Amen. Yehi shemei Rabba mevarach, L'olam li'ol meil maya, Yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'parsei v'dar v'dal shmei kudesha b'rechu, Le'elam in kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechmata, Gamrom Yomavimero, Amen. Titkabel Tlotum Dun the Chaisra Kadam Ifraimero, Amen. Yehe, Shalom Shachimero, Amen. O Seshalmer Mamavu Yaseshalom Aleximero, Amen. At the beginning of Kabbalat Shabbat, I pointed out that the opening psalm contains the theme of being on a trek. It's through the wilderness. And just a little while later, we shared a song named Journey by Craig Taubman, which was a modern take on the well-known song message teaching of Nachman of Bratslav, Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tzar ma'od. The whole world is a narrow bridge. Just don't be afraid. And on occasion, you've heard me speak of Kol ha'olam kulo. The world is a very narrow bridge. Don't be afraid. And as you and I are walking into an ongoing sense of uncertainty with COVID-19, the theme continues to come very loudly into my eyes and into my thoughts, that you and I are all on a bridge. And first consider, how did the bridge get to be here? The bridge came because people built it together. And next ask, who travels on a bridge? Rarely do you see just one individual traveling on a bridge. There may be a large community or a small community, but you almost never see just one person on a bridge. A bridge is built for a community. So Kol ha'olam kulo, yes, the whole world is a very narrow bridge, and literally the whole world is experiencing the same sense of chaos and lack of control that all of us are experiencing, but you and I are not alone on this bridge. And all we need to do is extend our hands forward and backwards. And those in front of us will clasp our hands, and those behind us will clasp our hands, and the one way in front will be stabilized by you, and the one way behind will be stabilized by me, and we'll continue walking forward. And this echoes in my thoughts because of the name of this Shabbos. And you probably remember that every Shabbos is named for the Torah reading of the week. And this Shabbos is named Lech Lecha, which literally means go for yourself. And it's speaking to the individual listener of itself. Lech Lecha, go for yourself, which means that you are to go for yourself, and you are to go for yourself, and you are to go for yourself, and I'm to go for myself. But to be very blunt, when the Torah was first being formulated thousands of years ago, and the parsha was named Lech Lecha, it wasn't sensing that in the year 2020 there'd be a COVID-19 epidemic that had frozen most of us in a sense of uncertainty. It was directing the voice towards Abram, and also Sarai. And later in this week's Torah reading, Avram becomes renamed Avraham, or Abraham, and Sarai becomes Sarah. And I'm thinking of Avram, who marched forward into a wilderness, and he had no one next to him, no one to stabilize him except his wife, and a voice that defied all description. And Avram and Sarai were traveling through on a wilderness trek. But they were not one of tens of thousands like the Israelites that you and I know of in terms of Moses and the expedition out of Egypt. They were following a dream. And the dream was as elusive and immaterial as that voice that Avram kept hearing inside his heart, or perhaps he thought he was hearing it inside his heart. And what was Avram seeking? And later his name becomes Avraham, and it becomes a bit more clear in next week's Torah reading. Avram was seeking, and he puts it forth in his own words, his own message of, shall not the judge of all the universe act justly and bring justice into the world? Avram was willing to leave his home and go off into an uncertain future. No helpers to speak of. Unclear where he might find lodging, where he might find a home. Certainly there could have been illness awaiting for him as well, not to mention thieves and brigands and warriors, all in pursuit of this yearning to connect himself to the rootedness of absolute justice in the world. That is what prompted him to leave everything behind and walk out only by himself across a bridge of indeterminate stability. And now you and I are also marching into a future of uncertainty. And we don't know when this COVID experience is going to cease. We don't know how much longer we're going to have to be remaining somewhat sheltered or quarantined or withdrawn from embracing and hugging each other or interacting in groups. It might be X number of months, it might be Y number of months, it might be Z number of months. No one knows. And it's causing many of us to be shaky and to wonder. And no one at all can give us the right answer. So we are on a journey of uncertainty, and it goes back to the idea of kol olam kulo, being on a bridge. But what we have is an advantage that Abraham and Sarah did not have. We have the certainty of being part of a community that goes back to the time of Avram and Sarai when they were walking forward onto their journey, and they were all by themselves. And we've been marching in their footsteps for the past 3,800 years, and we know that we're not alone. So on this Shabbat, when I hear the term Lech Lecha, and that is being directed to Avram, go forth and find that path. And Avram responds to an echo from the universe or a voice from within his own heart by saying, I'm willing to leave my home, my community, my language, my society in search of a new future in a distant land, even though there are too many uncertainties to count, because I see myself as contributing to a sense of justice in the world. He responds to that voice of Lech Lecha, go for yourself. And he charts his own path. You and I are much more fortunate than Avram and Sarai. You and I can chart our own individual paths, but we can also hold on to the person in front of us, the person between us and Avram. And indeed, we can also know that we are the person between Avram and Sarai and the people coming along in the next generation. And yes, I am asking you to reach down inside yourself, to hear that voice. Many American Jews are not accustomed to hearing the term of follow your faith, but we invented it this week in this week's Torah reading. And now it's time to reach down inside the 3,800-year-old foundation within your heart and mind and stand right next to Avram and Sarai to move forward. And you can also know that you are not alone, because all the members of Ahavas Chesed and I and God and many Jewish people far beyond this little community of ours are all in your corner. Lech Lecha, as you march forward in this uncertain time, remember, you are part of that bridge. You're an essential element, and you are stabilizing me and others. And therefore, you will be secure, as will I. Shabbat Shalom. And now let's make Kiddush. If you have wine and perhaps bread, we'll make a Kiddush and Hamotzi together. Kiddush is found in the siddur. If you have the siddur on page number 55. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yavav v'ratzon ichilanu zikaron l'maseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim ki avanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol amim v'shabbat kodshecha b'yahavo v'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh hashabbat. And perhaps you have a bit of bread, and you can join us together for the Hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Nearly concluded the Aleinu on page number 56, and thereafter Mourner's Kaddish. If so able, you're invited to rise for the Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol la'tet gedula liotzer breshit shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim Lifnei melech malchei hamlochim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim v'yosei haaretz u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim mimal u'shchinatu zo b'gavei meromim hu Eloheinu ein od emetz malkeinu efes zulato Kakatu b'torato v'yodata yom v'ashevota el levavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim mimal v'al haaretz mitachat ein od. Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad Oshemol echad. And now, in a moment on page number 58, the Mourner's Kaddish, we have a list of names, members of the synagogue whose yortzites we are marking, and if you wish to include And now in a moment on page 58, we will recite the Mourner's Kaddish. And we have a list of names here. we are marking your sites as a congregation, and if you wish to include the name of any of your loved ones, please feel free to do so. On this occasion, we remember with great love Mill Davidson, Mary Weiss Rossner, Teresa Chasson, Fanny Burson, Marcia Dantus, Morris Weber, Ella Sawalowski, Rose Bell Dreyfus, Robert Voigt, Phil Einstein, Jackie Berman, Sam Muchnick, Edna Feinstein, Max Rossner, Milton Eishold, Annie Janowitz Mazel, Bernice Gerwich, Helen Marie Marshall McCall, Gertrude Collette, Samuel Camille, Charles Mitchell, remembering Eunice Wertheim, Harriet Powers, Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba. Amen. Be'olma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'v'izman kariv imeru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mivarach le'olam ol'olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitdaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'alma v'miru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. May all who are grieving know that they are loved and their loved ones are remembered within the hearts of all who are part of Ahavas Chesed. May you all have shalom. We'll conclude in just a moment. Reminders, of course, minyan tomorrow morning, and then Havdalah tomorrow evening. Havdalah on Zoom, 7 p.m. Alabama Community Virtual Havdalah, 7 p.m. We'll conclude tonight with Oseh Shalom. This is from a man named Steve Dropkin. Similar words, of course, but it's a new melody. May there be peace. And take hold of this and share this song. And if not the melody, then the heartfelt words and the message behind it. Oseh Shalom.
Oseh shalom b'mrama, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, v'hakol v'hakol Yisrael v'yimeru. Shalom b'mrama, hu yaseh shalom bimroma. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'akol, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimrama. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'akol, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imeru amen.
Good Shabbos.